Good Sunday afternoon to you. It's Apple Stump Bushcraft Stuff and Things. Back with a follow-up video concerning the aftermarket takedown pin that we installed on this Ruger LCP 380 pistol in our last episode. So what this is, you can see right there. This differs from the original factory takedown pin in that notice right here there's a little arrowhead pointing down. There's a small groove or radius right there where that arrowhead is that accommodates the detent spring, which is inside the frame and supposed to hold that pin in. The problem is, yesterday when I went to the shooting range, the pin backed out, just like you see in this picture. And that was after 2 shots, and so if I had not noticed that and continued to fire the pistol, it's quite possible that the takedown pin would have come completely out of the frame, and that may have caused the slide to fly forward and off of the frame the next time I fired it. I wasn't too worried about it flying backwards and hitting me because of the way it's built. There's an internal structure in there that would stop that from happening. But if it were to not have this pin inserted, when the slide came forward after firing and back into battery, it's possible that it could continue completely off of the gun. So let's disassemble that and put the original one back on. So what I'm going to do is take that out of there, and then I'll put the 2 pins side by side and try to show you what the difference between them is. So first of all, I'm going to clear the piece. There's the magazine with no rounds in it. Nothing in the magazine well, and nothing in the chamber. Okay, so now we're clear to disassemble. So what we want to do is hold the gun about like this. Pull the slide back just a hair. We're going to rotate this pin with the screwdriver. So that that little arrowhead is pointing upward. Like that. Slide back just a hair, screwdriver blade underneath that, and pop it right out. Okay. So here we have the replacement aftermarket pin, and you can see right there at the top of it, that little radius, it's almost halfway through the pin but not quite. That's supposed to catch the detent spring wire, which you can see inside the frame. Right there, that little silver wire. So when you put the pin in there, that spring becomes under compression and it sort of holds the pin in place. Only with this aftermarket pin that we installed last time and that I just pulled out, the spring should fit into that radius right there. You can see it. The spring is meant to fit right into that and hold the pin from coming out. The problem is that when you fire the piece, this rotates around and pretty soon it loses its grip on the detent spring, and this pin will actually back out as shown in the picture. So what's the remedy for that? Well, we're going to install the original pin. So here we have the original right here, and you can see there is no radius on that at all. It's just, if anything, there's a small lip, I guess, or a flange on the pin distal to the head, or towards the end of the pin from the head, and it's a very small flange, maybe 1 millimeter, sticking out of farther than the cut is there, and the spring will engage that and hold it. It's curious because the cut on this one that forms that flange is actually deeper than the flange part here. In the original pin, you'd think this would hold better, but in practice it doesn't. So let reinsert the original. You can see the detent spring right there. What we want to do is put the head of this takedown pin in at a bit of an angle so that we can compress that spring a little bit and then push it in the rest of the way. So again, we're going to slide the slide back just a couple of millimeters. That pin in there. Now it's compressing the detent spring. Push it in there. And now we have it installed properly. And it is not going to come out. Nice and tight. And I can't pull it out of there with just pressure from my fingernail. There's another issue that happens sometimes with these pistols, and it arises from a combination of recoil and the fact that they use a plastic roll pin, for lack of a better term, there, and these two tend to move, and they tend to move in that direction to the right of the handgun after firing a number of times, and so they protrude out this side noticeably. I can feel them sticking out. So I don't like that. It doesn't harm the gun any. They'd have to walk their way half of the distance between this side and this side before that became a problem. Now what happens with this one here is there's some structures inside of there that depend on that pin, and this one here, same thing. I mean, they're there for a reason. And we're not going to go into taking the gun apart to demonstrate what those are for. But what I have here is a small punch and a little small brass hammer. And I'm just gonna, usually I use wood for this, but I'm going to use this one now because it's what I have handy. So it's going to be hard for you to see, but I'm going to put that punch down on the pin there and wrap it a couple of times, and now it's back in. And we'll do the same thing with this one here. Try to hold that in better contact with it. There we go. Drove it too far actually, so push it back out the other way. Okay, so it's about flush now on this side, and on the reverse side it's flush, and then that one is as well. So we're ready to put it back into service or clean it, whichever the case may be. So again, just a short follow-up to the last video where we installed the aftermarket takedown pin right there, and as the pictures show, it failed. So you can make up your own mind whether or not one of those is applicable or appropriate for your LCP pistol if you have one. But for me, it's a no-go. Apple Stump Bushcraft, stuffing things, and we'll see you next time. Have a great Sunday, and I hope your coming week is wonderful for you. Adios.